So my name is Josh Ecklow, and I'm, I think technically, the creative director of Iowa City Senior Center Television. I titled, as you can see, this talk, Iowa City Senior Center Television in parentheses, and then below that, and beyond. And the and beyond is kind of more what we're talking about today. And I guess the reason that I put the television in parentheses is because what we really do at SCTV is that we make a video that ends up now on television, but it doesn't necessarily always have to be that way, and probably won't always be that way, which is kind of where the beyond comes into play. So I'm not sure how many of you guys actually are tuning into ICSC-TV every day that it's on, which is almost every day. But I guess it would make sense to first kind of talk a little bit about what SCTV is. So Iowa City Senior Center Television, and this is our logo. It's a fairly new logo. You know, it's a TV, and it's the old Capitol. So it's a nice little, we had a graphic design intern that did that for us. It's quite good. And so SCTV is not a station in the sense that we have a channel dedicated to us that runs programming 24 hours a day, in the sense that, you know, KCRG is a TV station. We produce about 6 hours of video a month to go on different public access and PEG stations in Iowa City and in the surrounding area. So we don't have our own channel, but we're on actually a couple different channels. And I'm not sure how much public access everybody watches, but if you have a TV and if you have even just basic cable, you probably know that Iowa City has an astounding amount of access channels. Where I grew up, I think we had 2 or maybe even 3, but probably more like 2. Iowa City has a ton. The university has one, the library has one, there's City Channel 4, PATV, Kirkwood has a channel. I think there might even be a couple more. So there's a ton of public access going on in Iowa City. We give 2 2-hour reels each month to City Channel 4, so it's a total of 4 hours. And they run that 4 hours of programming all month, different times on different days, sometimes as a 4-hour block and sometimes not. We also give, I think, 2 hours of programming to North Liberty. They have a public access station there, and we give an hour of programming to PATV and also a public access station in Coralville. And the programs that we give to the other public access stations are Mature Focus and At the Center. And At the Center is things that are happening at the center. And Mature Focus is issues that those are mature may want to focus on. I should probably also say what the original intent of SCTV was. The original idea was that utilizing public access, the SCTV group would reach out to people who could not physically make it to the center and still be able to bring them in televisually to the great things that are going on here at the Senior Center. Since beginning, the group has kind of broken free of that mission statement. Sometimes we've been doing a lot more kind of artistic and journalistic programming with a lot of our serialized shows, such as we have a show called Neighbors and Friends that one of our volunteers named Elsie Vega makes. It's a lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered issue show for Iowa City. She kind of brings on clergymen of Iowa City and grills them in only a way that you know, kind of unintimidating lady could do. But she just looks unintimidating, maybe. So we have a lot of programming like that, but we also do, obviously, At the Center is one of the programs that is still kind of very close to the original mission of bringing things that are happening here to people outside of the center, but our content is kind of reaching beyond that. But it's kind of a scary time these days for public access. I'm not sure how much you guys follow your cable news. And by that, I don't mean CNN, I mean news about cable, which is probably not a huge interest for a lot of people. For me, it is. I don't know how much you guys know about public access, but the only reason that we can even have all these channels is the Cable Act of 1984. Our hero, Barry Goldwater, put this act through, which meant that if a cable company was going to move into town legally, if the franchise authority required them to, they would have to have public access channels. So that franchise authority is Iowa City, and they have requested of Mediacom a great deal of public access, which is nice, because some places don't even request any. So Iowa City has requested public access in abundance. But as is probably not surprising, there's been a lot of maneuvering on the behalf of the cable companies to try to see what they can do to kind of get that real estate back from the public access channels. One of the really important things about public access is that it's on the most basic of cable subscription plans. So if all you get is basic cable, you're getting all the public access. Well, with the digital conversion, it's kind of changed things a little bit, especially because that real estate, which used to be one channel, with the digital conversion, that can actually be several channels. So whereas PATV or City Channel used to take up one precious channel down at the bottom of the dial, now it's potentially taking up several. So they're trying to figure out how to get other things in there. With the use of the cable box, which a lot of the people that we're trying to reach out to were directly affected by the digital conversion. I don't know how many people had to actually go out and get the box to get cable into your TV once they converted to all digital, but a lot of the people that are watching senior center television actually had TVs that required this digital tuner, and there's a storm on the horizon that makes it look like if you're using this box, you might not be able to get the public access anymore. They're looking at moving it higher up on the dial, if you were. I don't think there's dials on TVs anymore, but that's still how I think of them. So I mean, that itself is a problem. There's also always the question of funding when it comes to public access. Part of the deal is that if Mediacom is going to be in town, not only do they have to give channel space to public access, but they also have to provide some funding. But it looks like the funding might run out sooner than later. It looks like in 2012, there just simply might not be any more funding for public access, which would be more of an issue than where it is on the dial if it's just not on the dial at all. So that's kind of the situation with public access. So if there's no public access, where's SCTV going to go? And that's kind of what we've been really trying to think about a lot in the past few years, and definitely as we get kind of more into the future where it's looking kind of grim for public access. So, of course, I think everyone here probably watches quite a bit of TV on the internet now, which certainly wasn't the case, you know, as recent as 2 or 3 years ago. There wasn't that much TV online. When SCTV first started its online project, this was the website that we had. This was actually built in the days before YouTube, which is surprisingly recent. I kind of feel like YouTube's always been around, but that is not the case, obviously. So when this site was built, there was no YouTube, there was no easy place to upload videos and stream them to other people. So if you wanted to get video on the internet, you had to have a server, you had to stream it yourself, so you had to be accountable for all your own bandwidth and your own server space. You also needed to build your own player for people to even see the videos in the first place. So this website was built using a streaming flash player, you know, that are fairly common now, but at the time it took quite a bit of programming on the behalf of an intermediate grad student at the time named Craig Dietrich. So he built this site, he built the player, and it did the job. It got videos from SCTV online, but there were a couple problems with it. And I guess one is kind of symptomatic of the other. The biggest problem with it was that there wasn't all that much interest in the site for actual members of the group. And when I came in, that was definitely the case. And it seemed to be that one of the reasons that there was kind of a disconnect between ICSC-TV and ICSC-TV Online is that there was literally disconnect. You couldn't get to the website from the Senior Center. The internet here was slow enough at the time that you could not go to the website from here. So, you know, the group themselves, unless they were getting it at home, weren't seeing the site. They also couldn't upload the video themselves. I was astounded by the process that was still in place by the time that I came in. So I came in and YouTube was invented. The internet was a post-YouTube place. So when I came in and I found out what the process for getting a video on this website was, I was definitely not surprised that people weren't uploading videos. The process to get a video onto this website was, because the internet was so slow here at the Senior Center, that you had to put the video on a hard drive and literally walk it across town to the communications center. You would then upload the video to somewhere on the server at the communications center, and 6 hours later, it would be uploaded automatically. And it was this whole kind of custom programmed thing that worked, but a walk across town and 6 hours of upload time in the age of YouTube wasn't really cutting it. And also just the fact that because the person that had programmed the site was kind of the only person who knew how to use the site, that was also an issue. So I consider myself an internet nerd, and I kind of had a hard time working all this jazz at the time. So I knew that and I really wanted to use it. So I knew if I was having such a struggle with it, people that were barely interested in the website in the first place were not gonna really get into it. So I kind of come from a post-YouTube internet where setting up a website is as easy as going to blogger.com and putting in your Gmail account. So we started a new ICSC-TV Online. And this is what it looks like now. This is actually Blogger-based with the work of an intern named Stephen Healy. Me and him put together this Blogger-based site that actually looks a lot like the old site. And this was actually kind of set up before it was becoming really popular and easy to use things like Blogger and WordPress as a CMS for a website. So this was still kind of difficult to make a blog look not like a blog. But one of the major things that we did in designing this was that we wanted to make it as simple as possible to get a video onto this site. And actually by this time, the internet in this building, and I think in a lot of places that were getting their internet from the city, had improved sufficiently. So we actually were able to build this website here. This player here looks a lot like the one on the previous site, but it's actually doing something completely different. The player on the old site was just playing videos that were on a server. So it was really just acting as a flash video player. This is actually going onto YouTube, where all of our videos are uploaded. So instead of uploading it onto our own server space, we upload all videos onto YouTube. So what this player does is it actually goes on YouTube and finds any videos that are tagged ICSC-TV. And any videos on YouTube tagged ICSC-TV show up on our website. And I actually have the website here. So these are all videos that are actually hosted on YouTube, but will play through our website. And all you have to do to get it to show up here is just tag it ICSC-TV. You can add other tags. You can even get more descriptive with the tags. That's how we add things like specific shows. If you tag it appropriately, the separate players will find it on YouTube and automatically put it on the website. So we even removed the necessary step of embedding the video on the site. After uploading it, you just upload it. And if you tag it correctly, it just shows up. So it's about as easy as possible. And now the only real problem is uploading it to YouTube, which you guys probably know. Uploading something to YouTube is fairly easy. The only problem being that a lot of our shows are half an hour. And YouTube has a restriction that seems to be getting larger. I think it's 15 minutes now, but for the longest time it was 10 minutes. So the obvious solution, at least initially, was to merely break up our programming into 10-minute chunks, which is not ideal, but it does get things on YouTube and gets things onto the site. While we were kind of doing that, YouTube started having corporate partnerships. So whole episodes of the original series of Star Trek, which are just under half an hour long, started showing up. And my first thought was, oh, great, because I love Star Trek. But my second thought was, if we can get whole episodes of Star Trek on here, why can't we get whole episodes of Neighbors and Friends or Shoe Talks Raw? So I emailed YouTube a bunch of times saying, like, I know about your corporate partnership program. Can we get a corporate partnership? And it was all about the idea that it was like revenue sharing, and we are a nonprofit. So I was like, I'm not interested in money. I just want to be able to upload half-hour videos on YouTube. That's all I want. And I would email them constantly, and they were just, mostly ignoring me. And when they would kind of email me back, it was nonsensical, and they didn't seem to understand what I wanted, although I thought it was a fairly simple request. Eventually, they rolled out something called YouTube for Nonprofits that was almost identical to the YouTube corporate partnership, except it was for nonprofits. And I thought that the promised land was here. I thought this was definitely going to be the solution to all our problems, because we would be able to upload full programs. We are a nonprofit, so I was able to apply. They emailed me and said, you've been accepted to YouTube for Nonprofits. They sent me an email to my personal Gmail account. And I said, great. So I go to YouTube, and because I was already logged into my email, I was evidently already logged into YouTube as well, which I wouldn't think would be a problem, except it gave the nonprofit powers to my personal YouTube account instead of the Senior Center YouTube account that I had not logged in with unintentionally. So I don't exactly know why that would happen. It didn't seem like my fault so much, but somehow my personal account now has all these great nonprofit capabilities, while the Senior Center account does not. So now I'm kind of back in the loop of trying to get a hold of a live person at Google, which is a game, kind of a losing game, but it's fun nonetheless. So I'm just trying to get a hold of a human being at YouTube to fix that problem, and then I think we'll be about done with the website, at least in its current iteration. And I'm not going to be in Iowa City forever. So part of the design of the website was such that I was trying to minimize the required knowledge transfer when I left, so that when I did leave, the site would continue to run without me. People would know how to modify it. People would know how to get stuff on there. And beyond the obvious problem of the nonprofit powers being on my personal account, which is the complete opposite of not needing knowledge transfer, things seem to be running and should be running even if I drop off the face of the earth tomorrow, which hopefully won't happen because I'm presenting on Saturday.